Let's get started with our meeting. When you first start a meeting as a host, you will have a screen pop up that looks something like this. There could be a few different things on your screen depending on if you started with a screen share or a video. If we move our mouse into the window, we'll find our toolbar at the bottom. If you did start your meeting with a screen share, it will look a little bit different, but we'll touch on that in a minute. Let's start down here on the left. Here you have your unmute button and a button to start and stop your own video camera. Moving to the right is our security button. If we click on this, we have some options come up. These options let us control what the participants can and cannot do, as well as enable a waiting room and lock the meeting. We've talked about the benefit of a waiting room, but when you have all of your participants, you can also lock the room. This will prevent anyone else from being able to join. For your first meeting, I do recommend having your waiting room on, but not locking the meeting. I would also suggest not letting your participants share their screen or unmute themselves. You will have to click back into security after each change. If we click participants, a white box will appear. This has another invite button on the bottom, as well as a mute all button. At the start of your meeting, I do recommend that you push this, as not only will it mute all of the current participants, but everyone coming in. These three buttons on the bottom right-hand corner have a few extra features. Many of them are repeated from the safety button. I'm going to add a couple of participants so that we can see the features of our waiting room. To invite new participants, we hit the invite button here, and this screen will pop up. Hannah and Nick are both in my contacts list, so that they come here as a quick add. You can also add someone through an email, or your room ID and your password are on the top and the bottom. Now that we have a couple more participants, if we hover our cursor over Nick's name, we can either ask him to unmute, or under the More feature, we unlock a couple extra options. It does seem like there is a lot here, but most of them are either repeats of the tool button or not important for a day-to-day meeting. However, we can make Nick a host. We can also remove him or put him in the waiting room. It is important to note that if you give somebody host privileges, you can always take them back. And if you remove somebody, they will not be able to rejoin the meeting. If you need to remove somebody from the meeting because they've joined too early or for other reasons, it's best just to put them back in the waiting room. Let's move over to our chat feature on the toolbar. When we click chat, it'll open up a little window underneath participants. Here, we can talk to the people in our meeting, either everyone, individually, or if there's somebody in the waiting room, you can send the people in a waiting room a message. Here, I've messaged Hannah privately about a document, and I've messaged everybody saying that we're going to get started in just a few minutes. Down here on the bottom right, if we click the three dots again, we have a couple more options that'll come up. Here, you can change who your participants can and cannot speak with. While this isn't important for most day-to-day meetings, it will help if you have a large group or you want to ensure that all of your participants are messaging you privately. Moving on, if we wanted to share a photo or a document with the participants, we can click on this green Share Screen button here, and this menu comes up. Please keep in mind that any program that you have running in the background of your computer will be visible on this screen. From here, we can share either our entire screen, a whiteboard for collaboration, or we can select a specific document to share with our participants. To select a document, we click on it, and then click Share Here. All of our participants will now be able to see what we do on this document. You may have noticed that the toolbar both looks slightly different and has changed position. To put it back to the bottom, you can click this little arrow here, and it snaps back to the bottom. Now there are a few extra features here. For example, you can stop sharing with this button here, or if you want to make a couple of quick changes, you can pause sharing. This pauses what everybody sees without closing down the program. Or you can do a new share here, which reopens your menu so that you can select a different option. Finally, we have our record button. If you click on this button at the beginning of the meeting, it will record your meeting and save it to the hard drive. Also, your reactions button. We have gone over what this button does at the beginning of the webinar, but it's just a really fun tool. Or if a participant doesn't have an account or the app, it's a way that they can interact by raising their hand. And that's it. That's all of the tools that you should need to know to host your very first Zoom webinar. Thank you very much. We will be opening the floor up for questions in just a moment.